1.21 gigawatts. Great God!
Shall we play a game?
Would you like a jelly baby?
Engage auto systems.
Aye. Engaged.
Clear all moorings.
Cleared, sir.
1/4 impulse power.
You know how to fly, don't you?
No. Do you?
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here.
The Force will be with you, always.
Hi, and welcome to the Geek Hangout podcast. My name is Mark, and I'm joined tonight, as always, by my good friend and co-host, Grant. How you doing tonight, Grant?
Hey, Mark, I'm doing great. Hey, everyone, thanks for joining us tonight. This is episode 81 of the Geek Hangout podcast. We got a nice little show for you tonight. We're just going to wrap up Ahsoka. We have the last two episodes to talk about, but really, we're just going to talk about, the whole series, I imagine, and, the whole finale and all that good stuff. That's pretty much it. We might talk a little briefly. We got a new Doctor Who trailer. Probably talk about that a little tiny bit. But other than that, nice tight show tonight. And but we always like to see where I've been up to, and throw it back to Mark and ask what's been going on with you lately.
Okay, so I think after the last show, you and I were talking. We were talking about base. I was telling you about a little bit about baseball cards. That's that's clearly the next thing for me. Like that's like because shortly after that call, there was a baseball card convention sort of thing, right? And we my son and I went to that, and that's
you did,
yeah, and that's it. It's happening
now. You're collecting baseball cards.
Yeah, they're like our coffee table in the living room is covered with baseball cards right now. So that's the new thing. But that show was really cool. Like we went and they had old cards, they have new cards, and it was really neat. But I think that's my new path now.
Okay.
So I'm still going to be doing the video game stuff.
Yeah,
but
right.
like I said, like I think I basically have everything.
Well, right. It's hard, when you complete a collection, you're like, okay, what do I do now?
Right.
Yeah. It's well, you move on to something different, I guess.
Yeah, so now you're right. So now I'm on. But for video gaming, there's a really cool thing is coming out. I've been trying to get a hold of an Atari, like an original Atari.
Right. Yeah.
And those things are harder to find than you'd think, and especially in working condition, right? Because there's a lot of them out there, but they're not always working that great. Because the technology was,
right.
not the greatest, right? 70s,
right. Not the greatest to begin with, right?
Right, yeah. 70s technology. So I struggled. Like I've actually bought one before, and it didn't work. So I've got one. I've got it sitting down in my basement. Okay. But like what Atari is coming out with, and I thought this was really cool. They're coming out with a retro console, and it's coming out. I think you can pre-order it now, but it's an Atari console that you can hook up to a modern TV. It's got HDMI hookups and everything.
Oh, that's cool, right? And
what's really cool about it is it has you can play the original games on the new console, which is that's really neat because I picked up Nintendo came out with some retro consoles a few years ago that you could hook up to modern TVs and stuff like that.
Right.
But they were minis, right? Like they were this big and the games were all preloaded on there. You couldn't, it wasn't actually a functioning. I mean, it looks like it.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a Nintendo console, but it doesn't. Yeah, but it doesn't play the actual cartridges.
Oh,
right?
So you're saying this new Atari retro thing they're coming out with, you can actually take one of your old cartridges?
Yes.
Oh,
and
that's
plug it
cool.
plug it into the system, and it'll play your old cartridge.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and that is really I'm really into that, and so I think that's the route. As much as I would like to get an original one that works,
right?
I think that's the route I'm going to go because it's like I said, even when you get them, they're not real reliable. Like I think we went through 2 or 3 of them when I was a kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I remember we had one. I remember having it here at, as an adult, and I had hooked it up, and the kids were little, and they played a little tiny bit, and basically there with the collected, it was like, this is dumb, and then I sold it, and that was the end of it. But that's interesting. Is it going to come? Will this new one come preloaded with a bunch of games also?
It's coming with it comes with a cartridge that's got 10 games on it, I think. Yeah, because those games were tiny.
Oh, in terms of memory, yeah.
Right. They were tiny. So the cartridge comes with when you buy it, I think, or I don't know if it's
Right.
separate or if when you buy it. So it'll come with some like basic, the basic Atari games. But
Right.
like, and then I think they're coming out with other cartridges that are going to be loaded. But it'll work with your original one if
Which
you
is
have it.
cool. Right. That's pretty
Yeah.
neat.
So I think that's
That's
the
pretty
route I'm going to
cool.
go.
Yeah. That's cool. And that's pretty smart of the Atari too, though, because it's like it's retro. So like it's cool that way. But then also not for anything, but they can get more money out of people because it's like
Right.
if you're here, buy this new cartridge, which has 10 games on it or whatever. But it's like you might be okay, I'll buy, I don't have those
Right.
games. I'll buy that. That's pretty neat. I like that.
Yeah, it's a neat thing. And I've got the Nintendo cartridges or consoles, my minis.
Yeah.
I've got hooked up to my setup here, right?
Oh,
So like I
okay.
get it to my monitor. So every now and then, if like I'm sitting around, I don't have anything to do, I can just switch them over and I can play my Nintendo games right here in my
Oh, that's
setup here.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
like
pretty
that.
neat.
So I'm excited about that. So yeah,
Yeah.
good stuff.
When you were talking about the Atari, it made me I saw something online and it said something like, what's something that only like a Gen Xer would understand or something like that. And it's like video games can only be played on channel 3.
Yeah,
Or like because you had to put the TV on channel 3 or 4, and
yeah,
then the thing behind the TV had to slide, or
right, exactly.
I just made me think of that when we were talking about it. I was just
Yeah, yeah.
like,
But that's the thing. Like the one that I bought, like there's like a chip in there, and I read about it because sometimes you can fix that stuff.
right.
But like the Atari system, it was, for its day, it was
That was high.
complicated, right?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was high tech back then.
But like, there's a chip in there that is regularly goes bad. Like,
Oh, I
and
see.
that's why they're sort of, it's like, you can find them, but it's tough to find. It's tough to get one that you know is going to work. And the guy that I bought mine off of was like, they all say this. They're like, well, I don't know because I don't know if it works or not because I can't hook it up to
Right.
anything.
That's like a
And-
clear sign. Right.
right,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, all right. So I mean, it wasn't a lot, so I grabbed it, but yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, I got burned.
Well,
Makes me
but yeah.
bitter.
Well, yes. Yeah. But then I mean, like, I guess I don't know what those chips are. Like, is that something you can replace now? I don't even know.
I think you can, like, I mean, I think if you can, but then it's a whole thing. Like the Nintendo stuff that I've been able to fix, it's like fairly simple stuff, and you just clean this or you glue that or whatever.
Right.
But the Atari thing is like it's a lot more involved. Like you need to solder stuff, and
Oh, then it
it's
gets
just
yeah.
it's a whole other. Not that I wouldn't try it,
Sure.
but it's
Right.
just frankly I don't have a soldering iron, or I probably should. But like yeah, it's a little bit more complicated. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah. Well, if you ever need one, I have one because I fixed that Sonic land speeder. I when I had to fix that for
That's right.
I bought it. It was just cheapy off Amazon, but I bought that. It's the one and only time I used it. I was like, oh, okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. So
Yeah, good stuff. But that's
Yep.
that's really all I've been up to. So what have you been up to?
Okay. So I haven't really been up to too much, but I added a slide here on the thing. I got to preface it. I'll say, all right. So if you're listening to the podcast, what we're going to show, it's like a little tiny clip. So I guess to start the story, I have a video on YouTube, right? I have a YouTube channel. It's been out there for like 14 years. I literally have like 3 videos on it. This happens to be one of them. And the videos, it's a Justice League promo that they aired for the Justice League cartoon back in the day, like I think like early 2000s or whatever, whenever that aired originally. So anyway, the thing is like the original episode aired, and it had characters in it that were very similar to the Justice Society of America. And then shortly afterwards, the video that I posted came out back in the day, and they're like, "Oh my God, they were originally going to use the Justice Society, but DC wouldn't let them, and they had to use make up these other characters." And so I had this copy of the video all this time, and I put it, eventually I had it on my computer, and I threw it up on YouTube, and I promptly forgot about it, and it just sits out there. So I get this random email the other day, and it's like, "Hi, this is so and so. I'm with the Watchtower database." It's a YouTube guy, and he's got his own channel and everything. He's like, "I want to talk to you about your video," and I'm like, "Okay." So anyway, I get in touch with him. I start talking to him. He's like, "We're trying to find the origins of this video." What do you know about it? And I'm like, well, I always heard that like they produced the video, but then DC wouldn't let them use the characters, and they had to change it at the last minute. I said, however, that being said, all these years later, knowing what I know about production and everything, like now, I'm like, there's no way they did that. So I'm not sure what it is. It's just something that's been out there all this time. So to make a long story short, he has his own channel and he does all the stuff about. He's really into the whole DC animated universe and specifically the Justice League cartoons and all that stuff. So I'll give him a shout out. Go to Watchtower Database. He has like a half-hour video exploring the origins of this clip here.
Really?
And he goes in and he like interviews a couple guys from the show. And I like helped him. I got him in touch with this one guy, the guy that used to run, not that I got him in touch with him, but I told him to contact the guy that used to run DC at DC Comics at the time. And
right,
got in touch with him and this and that. And so he goes through it and basically explores what it is and where it came from and all that stuff. But it was just one of those funny things where, like I said, I've been into DC Comics. I was really hot and heavy into them for a long period of time, and I've kind of gotten away from it and promptly forgot all about this. And so just, you wake up one morning, I'm like, I have this odd email. I'm like, what is this? So, but it's pretty funny. Like I get a shout out in the video he did and stuff, and it's very well done. It's very entertaining. But yeah, so he goes through and I mean, not to spoil it, but the end result is he's basically come to the conclusion that this is a fan edit, but it was done way back then. So the guy he couldn't get in touch with the guy that made it, but he pretty much pinpoints like they were using the Internet Wayback Machine to try to figure out when it was originally posted and all that stuff.
Oh, okay.
And so they tracked it down. They think they figured out the first guy to post it, but he hasn't been able to get in touch with them. So it's sort of still a bit of a mystery, but it's definitely it's been confirmed to be a fan edit, but it's still a mystery when it comes down to it.
That's funny.
Yeah,
I do like those like little. It's some of that like history stuff that's out there on YouTube is really well done.
Yeah,
it really is.
I mean, this guy. It's I watched I've only watched one of his other videos, but when he first got in touch with me, I'm like, well, who is this guy? And I went and he had a whole thing about the Blue Beetle and why he never appeared in any of the animated shows back in the day. And it's stuff that I was familiar with because I'm the fan of the Blue Beetle character. But he did a really good job explaining that, like, it was initially it was like legal reasons, and then basically they ran out of time, and like it was just very well done. Again, another like history, like a weird history of like, well, yeah, right. He's one of their I don't want to say a top tier character, but he's like one of their main B-level characters, and they're like, well, why wasn't Blue Beetle in any of these shows? And so
yeah.
He did a good job, and he's entertaining. He knows what he's doing, and he's I was impressed with it. So,
check that's really cool. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, I'll post a link out there on our Twitter and our threads or somewhere out there.
Okay, I think when I post the YouTube video, I think you posted it in there too, if you want.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that underneath. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I'll have to check that out. I'm telling you, some of the like there's some really good. There's a couple of guys out there that do like video game history. Like it's like a hit. Like they'll tell you, like they'll do like a whole history of like the Donkey Kong series and how it came to be and like that kind of thing. And it's really interesting. Like, and it's really well done.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, the skills, like I'm happy what we cobbled together here in terms of, recording and getting it on YouTube. But like, this guy did like a half-hour video and like there's like editing and sound effects and like, I mean, and a lot. And I'm just kind of like, oh my, I'm like, man, like this, like the skill level is like, beyond me.
Yeah. Well beyond our little,
right.
operation we got here. That's like all duct taped together. And that's cool. I will definitely check that out.
Yeah. So,
and what's the website again? One more time. Watchtower
Database.
Watchtower Database. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I'll get the link. I'll get the link out there for everybody to check it out and stuff. So
very cool.
Yeah,
excellent.
So, but that's it for me pretty much. So, I guess you have anything else? Or we'll get into
I don't. You ready to get into it?
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
All right. So we had Ahsoka. There we go. We had Ahsoka wrap up this week with episode 8, and last time we got up all through. I think talked through episode 6. So tonight we'll talk about 7 and 8, but really we'll just talk about everything.
Yeah.
What I'll throw you to get it started and just ask you, what did you think of of the last two episodes, but everything in general? What did you think of it? Where do you think we're going here? uh you know
I don't know where we're going at
okay.
this point. I'm very confused. But
Okay.
like, I mean, I liked it. I liked it. I
Okay.
liked it. Did I love it? No, but I thought it was good. I mean, there were definitely um some really cool elements in here in the show. They covered some really interesting stuff. I thought the guy that does the guy that played Ezra,
Right.
thought he did a really, like, he was true to the original character. I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was. I liked it. I thought it was really good. The Thrawn stuff. I think that's where I don't know that I know they want to make Thrawn into this, like, he's the new big bad, right? Like, they got
Right.
to have a
Right.
big bad. You can't have Darth Vader anymore, or the Emperor, or whatever.
Right.
And they're trying to make Thrawn into that, and I think that's fine. I don't know that I felt like it was really earned in this
Okay.
show. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, I don't feel like he's the threat that they see him as. Like, I
Right.
just didn't get it,
Yeah, I can see what you're saying with
you
that.
know. But
You got
yeah,
it.
yeah. So that's just it. I guess I just feel like they didn't spend enough time making him the
Right.
villain. It was,
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're saying because it's like, for the fans, and especially when they had the old expanded universe, or which is now Legends and all that, it
yeah,
was like Thrawn, and like, when they first brought Star Wars back, it was in the novels, Heir to the Empire, and there's two other books, but that's what everybody calls that whole series. And in there he was like this very calculating and insightful, but anyway, he was a very big bad guy,
yeah,
because it was like the first new Star Wars story we had since, like, Return of the Jedi. Basically, everybody lost their minds, and everybody loves Thrawn. And so I think coming into it, a lot of people are like, "Yay, it's Thrawn!" But I do agree with what you're saying. Is like within the series itself, especially if you didn't watch Rebels,
yeah,
I think a lot of people might be like, okay, like, he's a bad guy.
right.
And but like, you're right, like, I can, he didn't,
Why?
yeah.
Yeah, like, I'm just sort of like, why is one guy with one Star Destroyer, and sure, it's like packed with stormtroopers and stuff like that, but like, one guy with a Star Destroyer, why is he such a threat?
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't know that they ever, like, I mean, I know they covered it a little bit in Mandalorian, and they covered it a little bit in they were like, because they keep saying, it's almost like we're supposed to be afraid of him because the characters are,
Right.
but I don't think they ever, I don't think he ever really seemed like that big a threat, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
know.
I'm trying to think, like, right, they should have, right. It's almost like we needed an example of why he's so scary. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Like, if they'd shown him and his troops,
like wiping out a
what
villain,
wiping
like,
out like something, right? Or whatever. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I mean, it is interesting because, right, even well, he's just a different type of villain, because even here, like, he sends people out to kill the heroes or mess with the heroes, and then they lose. The stormtroopers get killed, and or the TIE fighters get blown up. They lose, and
right.
then he's like, but he's like, that's fine. That basically, he's like, that was an acceptable loss because now we know where they're going, or like, you know what I mean? Like, he's very plotting, very that way. But I agree with
Yeah.
what you're saying, like, if he didn't know he was supposed to be the big bad, and if he didn't know he was Thrawn, I wonder how many people would have been like, "Who's this blue guy?" Like,
Yeah. Right.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I guess you could say, I could almost carry that over to some of the other characters in the series too, because it's like, I was talking to my brother-in-law today who did not watch Rebels, and he's kind of the same way with the show. He's like, it's interesting, but I'm not really feeling a lot of stuff. And I'm like, not for anything, but it's like, if you would just watch this show, do you care who Ezra is? Do you care who Sabine is?
Right.
You know,
Right.
like you might have an awareness of Ahsoka, if only from the Mandalorian show and Book of Boba Fett, but it's like I feel like they could have, you know, they something was missing. Yeah, so, you know,
Yeah.
like there was an element missing here, and I guess that's the best way to put it is like I felt like they needed to play a little bit more catch up with, you know, like for some of the stuff needed to be a little bit more earned than just resting on Rebels, you know.
Yeah, and it's I mean it's hard, you know, it's hard, like how many episodes was it? 8?
8.
I think we said.
Yeah.
And you know, for and I guess it wasn't 8 full hours. It was probably like 6 and change, right? I would guess.
Yeah, right. I think that's about right.
You know, for 6 hours, you were like, oh wow, they have a lot to cover, but it's like, yeah, they didn't for a show that was 6 hours long or so. They didn't really talk about, you know, like I don't know, it just they didn't give a whole lot of background about, you know, and I guess we don't have to worry about it because we're fans. We saw Rebels, so we know who Ezra is, we know who Sabine is, we know all that. But like, I just didn't. I don't know. There was just something off about the show. I didn't dislike it. I mean, I thought the first few episodes were slow. It got better, and I thought the rest of the series was really good.
Yes, and I agree with that. Yeah,
and it's entertaining. I just feel like something was missing. I don't know what. You know?
Okay, yeah. I think I liked it better than you did, but I agree with you that the first couple were a little like slow and a little rocky, but then like after Ahsoka went through her Ahsoka the White thing, it seemed like once that happened, it seemed like everything got better. Excuse me one second. Sorry. It seemed like everything got better after that because, like, you know, Ahsoka kind of like loosened up and like, you know, so I liked that stuff, but like something about like Sabine and like I'm not really digging her in this show that much, and like I liked her in Rebels, but just something here is off, and I think part of it is like in this episode 8, the finale, we find out that when the Empire bombed Mandalore, and which was called, what was that? That was the night of
1,000 something,
1,000 tears, I think, right?
Yeah.
So apparently her family got wiped out in that when that happened, and that's when then when Ahsoka was training her, she realized that maybe Sabine was training for the wrong reasons, like heading down the path of the dark side, and I found that very interesting, and I almost wish they had told us that right off the bat.
Well, right, you know, and I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. And like that was. I'm glad we finally got that story, but I was sort of like, well, why? Like, it wasn't like that was some big reveal. Why didn't they just say that at the beginning? You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like why are you waiting until the final episode of the series to explain why the rift between Ahsoka and Sabine? I didn't understand that.
I didn't either. Like, so, you know, once you know that, then because it was like you know, drama for the sake of drama. You know what I mean? Like, I hate to say it was bad writing, but I almost feel like, you know, it's like literally if that line of dialogue had been in episode 1, oh, they had a falling out, you know, I mean, they could have the robot said Hu Yang, oh, they had a falling out. Sabine was starting to tilt towards the dark side or something like that. That's all it would have taken, you know?
Yeah.
Or something, or literally like, oh, well, she was getting too hung up on the fact that her family got wiped out. That, you know, that was a rift, and you could have been like, oh, that makes perfect sense, you know?
Right. Like, I mean, that's like, I just, yeah, I thought that was really strange because I was kind of like, okay, it wasn't like some big cliffhanger reveal and all this emotion. Like, Ahsoka and Sabine weren't even in the room when it gets explained finally. Right. It's sort of like, well, why didn't you just tell us that? Like, why is this? And it was like you said, it was like one line of dialogue or 2 lines of dialogue. It wasn't some big reveal.
Right. You were like, it's not like I am your father. It wasn't some gigantic plot point, you know?
They could have said it in the second episode, and then we'd be like, "Oh, okay. Well, this explains why they're
right." And actually, it would have been better because then when they started training again, you could see like, oh, they're starting to trust each other again. They're starting. I don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
and it would be like when she left Ahsoka after the battle, like when she left with the Balin Skull and stuff like that. You're like, oh, okay, this is her.
Right.
Like maybe this is a little bit of the dark side that they were talking about. You know,
they could have definitely played around.
Like it would have explained so much more.
Yeah. I know. So I was just that was disappointing. I thought. I mean, I was just see what else I had written down here, but yeah. So and just going back, I forget what episode it was, but like when her and Ezra finally, we talked about this last time, when her and Ezra finally like reconnect and after all these years, it felt very like anticlimactic. Like he just kind of stumbles out of his mobile home and he's like, oh, hey, what about time or something? And you're just kind of like, oh, I thought this would be a little bit more, even if it was a brother-sister relationship, because I'm glad they never went down the romance thing.
Yeah.
But it just was like, oh, okay, they're back together now. Like, or oh, they found each other. Like it was lacking some maybe emotional depth, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway, I feel like I'm picking on it maybe a little bit too much because I did enjoy a lot of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some of the things I just wanted to talk about. Is episode 7, the second to last one, the very beginning when C-3PO shows up.
Oh, right. You know what? I totally forgot about that. That's right.
I was like sitting there and they're like talking, and right away I'm like, well, where's Princess Leia? You know what I mean? I'm like, what's going on here? And then they're talking, and I'm like, how are they going to get around this? And then I hear his voice in the background, and I'm like, oh, it's C-3PO. And then he comes tottering into the room. Then the amount of joy I got from that was like I didn't know I wanted to see C-3PO again. I mean, it never occurred to me that I wouldn't see him again, but I whatever it was, I was just like, I was all giddy. I'm just like, oh my god, C-3PO.
Yeah. that was a good and I actually got spoiled on that because I wasn't watching the shit. Like I think I finally, I don't know, I think I was scrolling through Twitter or something the next day, and I was like, crap. So it just C-3PO. But it was cool. That's a cool route. That was a good
it was cool. Yeah, nice to have him there. And I thought it was a neat way of getting around having Leia be in the show. Like, I'm down for recasting. We've talked about that 1,000 times, but I thought this was kind of a clever way to be like, all right, we're not sure what we're doing there yet, so like we'll get around it this way and give them 3PO instead. And I kind of liked it too, because it's like Leia's too busy for whatever this New Republic nonsense is. Like,
right.
3PO, go take care of that.
I can't be like policing these people.
Right. She's like, I got other stuff. Yeah, I got other stuff to worry about.
Who are rearranging, rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So, but I thought that was really good. And so in that scene there, Admiral Akbar is apparently there as well. He doesn't say anything, but there's been some people talking. Apparently his badge is wrong. Like, if he's an admiral, the guy sitting there has like a general badge on or something like that. But when I'm like at home watching, I'm like, that's Admiral Akbar. I'm like, you can't fool me. So but I kind of like, in hindsight, I like the fact that he didn't talk and he didn't say anything, because he's probably just sitting there bored out of his mind too. Like, like
I'd rather be blowing up Death Stars.
Right.
Oh, the good old days.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then at that scene at the very end of the table, there's a character. His name is I have it written down here, but it's Ziano. Yeah, he's an Asian.
Yeah.
But so that character, he's kind of a jerk, right? He's giving like Hera a hard time. Well, he is the father of Paz, who was in that cartoon, The Resistance. Yes. So that's his father, and he does appear in the Resistance show. The father figure.
So, he does? Is he a jerk in that show? I never saw a single episode of that show.
I don't. The only thing I remember, to be honest, is yes, I believe he was jerky. And at one point, when the First Order destroys what is it? It blows up like that whole system, Hiroshima or Prime or whatever it is.
Yeah.
When Starkiller Base blows up that whole thing, at one point Kaz thinks his dad was killed, and then it reveals later he wasn't. But
Okay.
But that's kind of all I remember, and I think he was a bit of a jerk. So I just thought it was interesting that they were tying into the Resistance show. I'm like, look at this, again, more like what do we say about Clone Wars all the time? It's like some nice connective tissue between everything.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. So
yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So, but then the main thing though to talk about, and I mean, feel free to jump in here if you got other stuff. But I wanted to talk about Baylor Skull, and Shin. I forget what her rest of her name is.
Yeah, I don't have it here somewhere.
Hate?
Shin Hati. Yeah, Hati.
That's it, right? So in the one episode, basically he's like he cuts her loose. He's like, "All right, you're on your own now." He's like, basically your path is a different direction from mine. But it's almost like he like cuts her loose. Like it's not like Obi-Wan on the Death Star where he's like, all right, you have a different path than me. Like, and it's not like that where I feel like he's just was like, yeah, you're on your own. Like I feel like I feel like he ditched her.
Late. Thanks for getting me here, helping get me here, but I got stuff to do.
Yeah. So I would say, disappointment wise, I was disappointed we didn't get more from both of those characters in these last two episodes.
Yeah.
What we did get was cool. I liked it, but I wanted more. That was by far the most out of all of this. I mean, once they get, once getting past Thrawn, once they got to the other galaxy and discovered Thrawn, I was by far the most interested in these two, not so dark Jedi. I don't know what.
Yeah. For me, I think he was the most interesting character in the entire thing because you don't know what he's up to. I mean, he's got these like it's like you said, like he's not necessarily. I mean, he's not a great guy, but he's not necessarily evil. You know,
right.
Like he's got some principles. He's just but yeah, I was really interested in his storyline, and I mean, we didn't get much of it, and I really hope. I hope to God they recast that role. They really need to recast that role because I absolutely think he was the most interesting character in the whole series, and I'm like, and that's what I want to know. Whatever he's doing, I want to know about.
Yeah, right.
And so I really hope that they follow up on that, especially given what we saw at the end there.
Yeah. So you might as well.
I'll show it up.
Yeah. So full spoilers if we didn't say it, but you should know by now. So at the very end of the finale, they show Baylan Skoll on these statues, and he's out on the arm, and he's looking off into the distance. And he's been searching for something on this planet. What's the name of the planet? Perelia?
Pergil or something like that. I don't know.
So for anybody that doesn't know, these statues here are of let's see, these people here, and if you're watching on YouTube. So there was an episode there was 3 episodes of the Clone Wars. It was called the Mortis trilogy.
Yes.
And Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka go to this planet Mortis, and they discover the father, the daughter, and the son.
Yes.
And these are like beings that use the Force, but they're kind of like God level powered type of thing.
Yes.
Right.
And it's sort of like the father is like the balance. And I tried to watch these. I was telling Greg before the show, I tried to watch all 3 episodes before we recorded tonight, and I only got 2 in. But it's sort of like the father is like represents the balance between the son is sort of like the dark side, and the daughter is the light side, and the father sort of represents the balance between the two. And it's interesting because all through the show they get to wherever they are, and I don't even think it's a planet. It's just some place in the universe. It's like almost like world between worlds kind of level stuff, right?
They call it Mortis, I believe.
Right,
but it's definitely not I said, yeah, I think I said a planet, but it's definitely like it's somewhere
Right. You can't just
very
like get in a ship and fly there.
right,
It's
right.
it's a whole thing.
Yeah, and like isn't the landscape changing and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and like it's very, I mean, kind of world between worldish, but
Yeah.
not, you know, yeah,
It's like the father described it as like the three of them were so powerful that he had to take them out of the real world, and
oh,
put them, and they sort of were like in this, he actually calls it a prison, like, he's like, it
oh,
feels like it's this area for just for them, because of they're so
oh,
powerful.
interesting.
And
Okay,
what's interesting is like the entire episode, they bring the three of them there because Anakin is the chosen one, right? Like that's what
right,
they like as soon as he gets there, that's the first question they ask him, "Are you the one?" And he's like, "The one what?" Right? And then
right.
they start talking about the chosen one, and the idea is that the father's getting old, and he wants Anakin to take over because Anakin is the chosen one. He's supposed to be the balance between the light and the dark, right?
Right.
And and that's what it's a lot of like, you know, it's sort of very heady. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah.
those three episodes are very, and I remember watching them at the time being like, I don't know what the hell's going on here.
Yeah,
And
right.
going back, and it's not a whole lot clear going back to
Okay.
it, but like it's very like into the mythology,
Yeah.
of what the Force is and how it works and all that kind of stuff. And it's really interesting. And and in the end, I think, as I recall, um, they they sort of wake up in the shuttle not knowing if it happened or not, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I read it like a little
You know,
summary today. Yes, I believe
right?
that's right. But
And
like within, and spoiler for you because you're going to watch episode 3 later, I guess. But
yeah,
like by the end of the whole thing, they're all dead, aren't they? Like,
I think as I recall, I think the father. I don't remember. I don't
okay.
remember.
What I read,
And
yeah,
that's I really wanted to say, but I think I read that the father ends up either dying or killing himself in order to save the daughter or something like that,
the
or the son.
what I read today was, so the daughter dies and they use her like essence, even though she's dead, they use her essence to bring Ahsoka back to life because
Yes,
Ahsoka.
I saw that part. Yes.
Okay, and then later the son kills the father, and then I believe Anakin kills the son.
Oh, real? Okay.
I didn't. Did I write? Oh, I just wrote down that they're all dead. It was because I kept thinking that only the daughter had died because everyone was making a big deal about Ahsoka being possibly the reincarnation of the daughter or something like that.
Right, right, right,
Especially
right,
that last scene where the father and the son statues are there, but the daughter's has crumbled. And
right.
so at first I figured that father and the son might still be out there, but then when I researched it, I was like, oh no, it looks like they've all died. So I don't know what it really means to, and like I said, and then once they leave, they're like, did that even happen? So
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
it's very deep
It's
for
very, very,
for for a for an animated show that was ostensibly for children. It was
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
deep.
yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot in there. I mean, there really is. There's a lot of like mythology. There's a lot of, you can even like in the way the son talks in some of the in some of the dialogue sounds like he's, and it's a different actor who's doing it, but the way he says certain things are definitely um make you think of the emperor, right? Like the way he
Oh,
says certain phrases and things like that. You're like,
okay.
oh, that's very emperor like.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
and then you know what? And I wish I had written it down, but
Oh,
there were a couple of things that Ahsoka said in that in those two episodes that made me think directly of the show of Ahsoka. Like
oh,
of the TV series, because
Right.
it's sort of like she says things about Anakin being her master that I think lead right into what some of what we've seen in Ahsoka, like with the struggles she's had, like getting over the fact that Anakin, kind of left her and stuff like, or or became what he became, and
Right.
how she left him, and she, just certain things. And I wish I had written them down because I can't think of what they were exactly. Because as I'm watching, I'm like, oh, I got to talk about that on the show tonight, and then I completely forgot.
Right, promptly forgot.
But there was just there's a couple of phrases, like it's totally, I think it's totally worth going back, particularly in watching these 3 episodes, because I think a lot of what happened, a lot of what we saw in Ahsoka, I think ties directly back to what happened in the Mortis trilogy.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So it might be worth like going back and giving them a rewatch, because
that's I had wanted to, and then like I've actually thought about several times going back and rewatching the Clone Wars altogether, and it's such a, first of all, it's a very daunting task because there's so many of them.
It is,
and we've made it no secret here. Like I like some elements of the Clone Wars TV show, and other elements I really did not care for, and like to do it all would be a bit of a slog, I think. You know what I mean? Like, and so to go back and watch these 3 episodes, I'm interested in that. I thought about going back and maybe watching, like, I think on Disney Plus they have like Mandalorian episodes, and I thought about maybe going back and watching those, and maybe the more curtailed, like, oh, here's some important Ahsoka episodes type of thing.
Well, there's a website out there somewhere, and I think I remember because I gave it to my son at one point because he was going to go back and watch Clone Wars.
Right.
And you know how like Clone Wars jumps all that was, I think that was one of the things I really hated about Clone Wars. It jumps all over the place.
Yeah.
And they got better about it later. Like once Lucas stopped being involved, like they got better about making it a more linear story.
Right.
But the first few seasons, it would be like there were 3 episodes on the Twi'lek planet. And then there was these 6 episodes took place somewhere else a year or 2 before that.
Yeah.
And then they'd go back to the Twi'lek planet. And it was just like, well, why didn't you just do, and it was very disjointed.
Yes, I definitely remember that. And I remember, like, I don't even think initially I even realized, like, here I'm a grown person and I'm like watching the show, and I don't think I even realized.
No.
I just remember being like, "What the hell is going on?"
Yeah.
And here, it's like you said, it's like, this took place before the first episode. I didn't know that. Yeah, I know what you mean about the list out there. There's a list of like, here's the right order to watch.
Like, if you want to see it chronologically, this is what you should watch. And like the list is like the very first episode you should watch is Clone Cadets, which takes place in like season 3.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Like that's the first. It's very strange how they did it.
Because I remember, for some reason, I remember there was a Imperial bad guy, and he looked like a big spider. And like he was in like some of the early episodes, but then he was in later episodes, and I'm just like, I remember being like, didn't this guy die? What is going on here? And then here, the episodes later took place before the episodes earlier, and like it was all very confusing.
Yeah. But so I think my son tried to go back and watch it like kind of chronologically, but then that's a pain too, because it's like you're constantly, I gotta stop.
Right.
What's the next episode?
Right.
And
where am I? What's next? Yeah.
Right.
I think now that we're saying that, I think I started to do that too. I think I went back and watched like the real first episodes, and I made it up through like the movie, and then I think after that I'm like,
it's too much.
Yeah, I didn't get
too much trouble. Yeah. But
good.
But I also think there's lists of, like, if you go out there and look, that they'll be like, these are the ones you should watch, because there's a lot of like, and I think we've talked about it before, like our problem with it is there was a lot of like, because there were 24 episodes a season, I think, right?
Right. Yep, I believe so.
So there were quite a few there, like, and it wouldn't be like just a filler episode, it would be like 3 episodes that were really just filler.
I always think of the one that was like a 4-parter. It had like the 4 droids on the desert planet, just like roaming, and had the little tiny lizard man that lived inside the one. And like, I just remember being like, this is this is Star Wars. I like this goofy, weird stuff, but this is too much for me.
Yeah.
I remember that, and then like years later, I found out they were some of George's favorite episodes. And you're just kind of like, all right, George, I don't know.
Okay, bud.
I know.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy, George
Yeah,
is.
right.
But
But
yeah, but I don't know. There's some really good stuff in Clone Wars. I mean, I say that like as much like I don't in its totality. I don't know that I love it, but like there's some really good stuff in Clone Wars that really expands the mythology.
yeah,
And that's the stuff that's really good. And this is one of them. Mortis is one of them. And I love that, because I always remember I never thought they would go down this route, because it's like I said, this stuff is kind of heavy, right? Like even today I was watching it and I'm like, wow, this is pretty dense stuff,
Yeah.
And I'm just impressed that they're like, no, we're going to go there, like it's interesting,
It's kind of exciting, really, because it's like, they're definitely like doubling down and like they're like, yes, we're going to delve into this mythology, and like it's nice for Star Wars because it's like it's opening a whole new door of like, all right, here, like, which is what Star Wars needs, because like, Disney bought it from Lucasfilm. They did The Force Awakens. They reminded everybody, hey, look how cool Star Wars can be. And and then whatever happened with the sequels, the rest of them, but after so long, it's like, okay, what else is there? I mean, I enjoy a good lightsaber battle like as much as the next guy, but sometimes you're like, okay, what else is there? It's like, so rather than trying to one up themselves that way, they're going to go this way. And I think that's the right decision. I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, like I think I like that they're exploring, like, and I think that's why Balin's Skull is so interesting to me, because they're sort of like they're sort of making. I think you said it on a prior episode. He's like, maybe Jedi are just boring, and like and like I don't think you're wrong. Like I like, and it's sort of like, I mean, what we've seen. I mean, in the original trilogy, the Jedi were like, oh, it was like, well, what's a Jedi, right?
Yeah,
like we didn't know what it was. What's a Jedi?
Yeah,
and that was, and it was all mysterious, and it's like, wow. And then I think maybe the uh prequels maybe explained what the Jedi were too much,
right?
Because then it was like, oh, well, the Jedi sort of suck, right? right. Like, and then like, and then like the sequels didn't really do anything to improve that reputation.
No,
like it's like it's pretty cool that they can, they're force wielders and stuff like that, but like, I mean, in the end, like Luke kind of sucked. Right? Like, well, no, he didn't, but it was like,
but right, like,
it wasn't like they're not like I don't know, like maybe we learned too much about them.
Well, yes, I would say that is because I mean, it's always better when it's your imagination, And the minute somebody like that's probably the main problem I had with the prequels, because it's like all of a sudden, here's what happened. Oh, I didn't picture it that way,
Yeah, right. So it's like maybe what they're trying to do is like, you know what? Let's make them mysterious again. Let's make them, like maybe the Jedi that we know, maybe they did, like and George has always sort of said this, that they kind of went off the wrong path. But we've never really seen I guess the correct path. So maybe they're gonna go explore that. Like what is the nature of the what is the nature of the Force? Why why can some people control it and other people can't? And so
that's interesting. And it just made me think of it may, again, this connective tissue. So like, Luke, he tried to rebuild the Jedi Order, as far as we know, in the old ways, like, like between the Last Jedi, between Jedi Return of the Jedi and the Last Jedi when we see him.
Yeah.
And what we little bit we've seen, it seems like he was trying to rebuild the Jedi Order of old, which kind of was a failure, like both before his time and then he obviously he fails in terms of rebuilding it too. And it's kind of even when it gets down to Baby Yoda and he's like, oh, you have to make a choice,
Yeah.
between and so like the connective tissues there, it's like, oh, well, maybe that's why Luke failed because he um you know, he was still beholden to the old ways, whereas like like you said, maybe there's a better way, maybe there's a new way to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Now I'm sure if Ray picks up on this, there'll be haters that hate her for doing that story wise.
Yeah.
But maybe when her movie, if that all happens, but if she comes out with the new Jedi Order and she's like, you know what, we're going to do this a little bit different this time. I learned from Master Luke, and I've learned from the texts, and maybe we'll try it a little bit different this time. But all that before any of that happens, we'll have explored it here in Ahsoka and the Mandalorian, and and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah, and I think that's what they're going for. I don't know that I necessarily agree that that's what Luke that was the direction Luke should have. The Luke that we know, who
Right.
saved his father because he wouldn't, who always believed that there was good in his father. I
Right.
don't think would just be like, oh well, let's just make it the way they used to. The one, let's just make it like the one that failed. I don't think
Well,
Luke would
that's
go
true
that direction.
too.
I mean, that's a
Right.
whole other story. But like,
Yeah.
I mean, Luke sort of proved that all that was wrong because he saved his
True.
father.
True. So,
But
but yeah, I guess maybe in the connective tissue sort of thing, maybe they'll show him learning that lesson because, right, we see him making like with Grogu, and he's like, well, you have to choose.
right,
But
right, right.
then by the time the Last Jedi rolls around, yes, a lot's happened, but he says to Rey, he's like, it's time for the Jedi to die. Like I mean, he changes his mind, but like, you know what I mean? He's kind of over the whole Jedi thing, like the whole,
Yeah, yeah.
I think
That
there's a very interesting story in there to tell about Luke, and I hope
yeah,
we get it. I hope we recast him, put him in the movie. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
give us
yeah,
that story, because it's yes, the ending, but like it's too rich of a story, I think, to give us bits and pieces. I'd rather,
yeah,
you know if you're gonna do a movie in this time period, Luke's got to be your main guy.
yeah,
And I hope they do that.
yeah. And I think that's what they were like. I wouldn't have had a problem with Luke in The Last Jedi if the whole reason he was there, the whole reason he left was that he had come to a deeper understanding of what the Force was. And he was like, no, I'm done with all this fighting and because that's not what the Force is about. And like that, I think I could have gotten on board with,
That could have been pretty right.
because he's now like, he's got even a deeper understanding of the Force than even like Yoda or Obi-Wan had.
He like transcended.
Right.
Even he's like, I don't need to be a Jedi. I don't need. He could have
Right.
transcended all that stuff. That would have been interesting.
I could have been on board with that, but like the way they did it, I was just like, yeah, he just went and screwed. I had a bad day, and then I went and hidden on an island for.
Like it would have been. I mean, and that still comes down to like, again, the most important thing to happen to our character, we get told in a flashback,
Right.
And it's like, that should have been that. I still say that should have been the whole first movie, bringing everybody back.
Right.
That should have been the core of it. Luke, yeah, okay, maybe he did mess up, or they should have shown him having some visions of like, Kylo Ren killing Han and Leia or whatever. They should have shown that, and if they just showed it, I think that people would have been a lot more accepting of
Right.
everything, just to be like, oh, that's what happened.
Right.
So
Yeah.
but maybe well, whether they fill in the gaps, or hopefully, like I said, if they are going to do a whole, I know they're calling the Filoni or the Mando verse now, but in this time period, if they are going to do something, man, they better recast these guys and let them be the stars of it. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know how they're going to do it now, to be honest, though, because it's like you have Ahsoka and the whole Rebels crew and Thrawn. And then, all right, well, you got to bring Luke in, and Leia's out there. You got to bring
yeah,
her in. And, if she's coming, Han's coming. And it's like,
yeah,
now you have all these characters. And I just, I don't know how they're going to handle that. I don't know. I just,
yeah. And they're not coming back to be on Disney Plus. That's
right,
not going to
right.
happen. I
Yeah.
mean, well, Carrie Fisher's not coming back one way or the other.
Oh no, right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but I
like,
mean, but if they recast those guys,
right,
uh, you know, ma- right, make it an event, make it a gigantic movie. I mean, make it, it should be huge. I mean, if they were smart, they would do that. And I'm sure, I mean, you throw Luke and Han back on the screen, even if they're different actors now. I mean, you're still going to get people showing up, I think.
yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
I think they were. I think they learned. I think they thought they learned a lesson from the Han Solo movie, but I think they
Right.
weren't. They learned the wrong lesson. The issue
I
was not that he was a different actor.
right.
That was not the issue
Yeah,
because
because
nobody had a problem with Lando,
no,
right?
everybody loved Lando.
Right.
And I mean, you know, I, I don't know. I mean, maybe the actor Alden Ehrenreich, is that his name?
Yeah.
Right?
Eisenreich. Yeah.
Eisenreich. Maybe he wasn't the best choice. I mean, I liked him. I thought he was all right. I mean, he
Yeah.
wasn't
I thought he
Harrison.
did all right.
He's not Harrison Ford, but I mean, who is? So it's
Right.
like,
Right. Right.
there's a, there. I don't know. There's got to be some give and take there. But yeah, I just please just don't CGI this. No more of
Yeah.
these CGI stuff. I've said it before. I said I don't want to sit there and be like, oh, he looks pretty good. I just want to be
Right.
just with the story. Oh, this is the new Luke. Great, got it. Let's go.
Yeah. You can't. And with all due respect, you can't replace nothing. Nothing takes the place of an actual actor. I mean,
Right.
like actors. There's a reason actors get paid what they get paid, right? Like, and
Right.
you can argue about how frivolous it is because they get paid lots of money for pretending or whatever else. But
Right.
really good actors are really good actors for a reason, right? Like because
Yeah.
they make you, and a CGI character. I don't know, I mean, it's hard for a CGI character. I mean, I don't think you'll ever get there. Honestly, I mean, as good as it may get, I don't think you'll ever get to a point where CGI generated character is going to replace what a human being doing the same thing can give you. I just don't think you'll ever get there.
I was just trying to think about that. I mean, Avatar got pretty close with some, but they're aliens, so it's different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But to get a true human face, I think
Right.
it's going to be a long time. I think it's going to, if they ever do get there, I think it's still going to be a long time, and you got to work out all the details and stuff.
Right, because there's just little subtle
Exactly.
cues,
Yep.
in a human face that we all pick up on because we're all human and we do things,
Yeah.
and it's just I don't know that as good as it may be, I don't know that a CGI generated face is ever going to give you that. It's just I don't know that it can.
Right. I mean, yeah, the technology is neat and it's cool,
Right.
and all that stuff. But I'm like, I don't know if it's me, and someone's like, all right, here, go make your movie, and you have a choice between recasting or having somebody stand in with dots all over their faces, and you know what I mean, like the whole
Right.
and that's where half your budget's going to go. I'm kind of like, no,
Yeah.
no, we're recasting.
Yeah.
It's like it's not even.
I mean, it's probably fine for like quick hits. Like, I mean, we saw Indiana Jones. Like, I thought they did a fairly good job on Indiana Jones. Like when you saw his face in full light and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like they did a good job. And I think for that, it's probably fine.
Exactly.
But if you're going to sit in a 2-hour feature film,
right.
I want an actor. I want a real actor.
Yeah.
It's
it's like I said last time about Luke. It's like at the end of when he made his appearance at the end of season 2 of Book of Boba Fett. that was,
It was right.
it wasn't the best, but it was fine. I was just excited to get Luke. It was fine.
Right.
But then when Book of Boba Fett came out and he had basically that whole episode, there after a while, I'm like, okay, like, I wish I was just, I wish the guy that, because the guy that they hired to stand in for him, if you just take away all the crap, he actually looks like Mark Hamill. I don't know if he's a good. I don't know if he's a good actor.
Right.
But I would assume he has to do some kind of acting. So it's like, I'd rather just. It'd be nice if he looked like him, but I just want somebody that can act.
Right.
If he can act and you can make him look like him, great. I mean, there's a guy out there that looks and can do a really great impersonation of Harrison Ford, and everybody was like, "Oh, he should have been in the Solo movie." But I don't know if the guy can act.
Right, he can pretend. Right.
Yeah,
it's one thing to act, and it's another thing to.
Yeah, I don't need an impression. I don't need a 2-hour impersonation. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Like but I'll tell you what, if they're gonna have Han come in and cameo in whatever the movie might be, if he's going to just have like a little scene or something, fine, bring this guy in, let him do his imitation for 30 seconds, fine, get a laugh out of him, and then off he goes or something,
good enough, right?
Yeah. Anyway, we got off on a tangent.
Yeah. But I really think, like, my point was, before we went down that rabbit hole, was that I think they laid some really interesting ground for Baylan Skoll, and I think we need to see that play out. So, and look, Ray Stevens was Stevenson or Stevens. I can't remember which it is, but he did a fantastic job. I mean, he absolutely, like, I would love to see him continue in the role, but that's no longer possible. So the reality is, as interesting as Baylan Skoll was, he's not some iconic character. Get somebody else, put the beard on him, and have them do the story.
And it's not like, it's not like it's reality, where it's like, rather than like, grafting this poor dead guy's face on someone else and I just, the first episode, oh, it's Baylan Skoll. Like, okay, you mentally, you're going to be, oh, that poor guy died. Here's the new guy. Okay, great.
Right.
Like
it's not that big a deal. He's not that big a character. And I mean, look, they did the same. Rhodey in the first Iron Man movie is not the Rhodey we get for the rest of the series. It's fine. Nobody cares.
Right.
I mean, the actor probably cares, but none of us do.
Yeah, that guy cares. He's bitter.
Yeah. He's not happy.
Right. But nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
They did it with Rhodey, they did it with the Hulk. I mean,
Right. How many James Kirks have we had? How many? Just do it. Just do it.
Batman, Superman now. I mean, you're right. Just
tell the story.
Yeah, exactly.
The story is what's important,
Yep.
So, I hope we do, because he truly was, for me, I think, the most interesting part of that show.
Yeah, me too. I mean, yes, I did enjoy everything else, and I liked everything and all that stuff. But that being said, yeah, he was and I think because he was something new. You know what I mean? He was something.
We didn't know who. There's some mystery attached to him. You don't know what his deal is, because it's like, we said, like, he's not evil,
right?
I mean, he's not the greatest guy,
No, but he's not evil,
right?
I saw a thing with Filoni about the orange lightsaber, and he said that was obviously on purpose, but he said it was always. He goes, I wanted you to. He made a reference to, like, when he was younger, watching how Vader's lightsaber actually is like kind of orangey sometimes, and I think that was just a product of the technology and stuff like that.
Right.
But it stuck in his mind, and so he thought it was interesting to show someone that might not be all the way evil, basically. So he's kind of he's in the middle type of thing, and I found that very interesting, and even his apprentice. Shin
Hati or whatever.
Hati. Okay. That's almost like Hottie. Like,
yeah.
I've seen people making fun of that now that you say it.
Yeah.
But I'm curious what's going to become of her, because, like, now she's stranded in this other galaxy. Her only hope is Ahsoka. So it's like, is she going to double down and be a bad guy and be troublesome for them, or is she going to be like, oh, like, can you train me? Yeah.
Well, I do wonder if, like, I mean, in almost all of these Star Wars shows, we've had somebody who flipped, right? Who was a bad guy and then became a good guy.
True, right? Yeah.
So I wonder if Shin is that character, that
Yeah.
is, although, she goes down there with the mercenaries or whatever those
Right.
things were that, so
Yeah.
she'll probably be in charge of them. But I
Yeah.
wonder if she flips, like if they sort of like end up in a situation where the three of them have to work together and then,
Right. And that would be pretty cool too. I mean, that would
yeah,
be, because and then what's her story? Where did where'd she come from? How did the Baylor, where'd he dig her up from type of thing?
yeah, right.
Yeah, and there's a whole backstory there too. So
I am interested. Like, I thought it was. I mean, it's interesting, but I thought it was a little strange because now they've like swapped. So now Ezra's back where he belongs, and the
Right.
others are like stuck on the other side of the universe. So,
yeah.
I thought that was interesting, and I'm like, all right, so how does that, like, are they gonna? Because obviously they got to get the crew together,
Right.
right? Like, where was Zeb?
He was.
Was he too much money? Is that where Zeb was?
I think he was stuck in the budget meeting.
Yeah, I think, but I guess Zeb got left on the cutting room floor. Yeah, I think he was too much money.
I mean, maybe there wasn't a place for him in the.
There probably wasn't.
If he was there, it would have been like there would have been too many of them traipsing around. Maybe, as it was,
because there really, yeah, there really wasn't a moment where they were all together.
No. Right. I mean, it would have been neat at the end when Ezra showed up with Hera being there if Zeb had, for some reason, been there with her. But but then again, it wouldn't have made sense because they've already said he's off training, he's training X-Wing pilots or doing something like that.
Yeah. So. Maybe we get an Ezra Zeb buddy show. That would be
pretty cool. That would be
like going around because they were always like hanging out.
Right.
Rebels.
They were. Yeah. I always enjoyed them. They were a trip together.
Yeah.
So that could be pretty cool.
Ezra, Zeb, and Chopper. That would be.
I'd be down.
That's a show I would watch.
Right. Some of those early episodes of Rebels are really good because it's like it's so low stakes, like base level, and it's just very like it's I don't know. It's just very. It was always funny. It was like fun. It was a good like watching.
Yeah, I liked Rebels. I liked it. I mean, it suffered from the same. I think it still also had a lot of episodes every season, right?
I know. I think I remember being shorter. I think they had like maybe 12 or 15.
Maybe they're 12.
It was not like Clone Wars where there was like
there were fewer
or whatever. Yeah, there were fewer. I remember that being pretty good. There were some filler episodes here and there and stuff, but for the most part, I remember them being pretty good. And like, again, it started out low stakes and kind of a kid's show, and then it gradually worked its way up to being like for everyone. And the stakes got much higher. I mean, Kanan gets blinded and then he gets killed. And, it was like, it was a good show. I remember liking it. And they did a lot of neat stuff in there with like the Bendu. Remember that guy?
Yeah. They dealt with a lot of Force stuff. Like what, again, the nature of the Force, right? Like what is, and then you had the Bendu and you had the World Between Worlds episodes. And,
right.
They dealt with some interesting concept, I thought, in Rebels,
It's kind of neat in a way to see, I mean, like with Clone Wars, it was George and Dave, but now like, Rebels was all Dave, and now he's doing Ahsoka now. So it's like, it is interesting to see like, the sort of the passing of the torch to him now. I mean, he may consult with Lucas on the side or whatever like that, but it's interesting to see where he's taking everything type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like the idea of bringing a little mystery back to the whole thing.
Yes.
And maybe that's, and not like the mystery box kind of thing, but like, right. But like this kind of mystery, like what is the Force? Like, why is there a light side and a dark side? Like, can you be a Force user and not be a Jedi? Can you be, I like that, like that's interesting.
Yeah, it's what I mean, really, because we even see it with Sabine where she starts out and she is totally locked out of the Force, and now by the the last episode here, she's not only getting her lightsaber, but she's pushing Ezra, and what I mean, like so you see her start to whatever it is. Oh, I saw something today where I forget who said it. It was Ezra or it was Kane maybe, but he was like, or maybe it was Luke. I can't remember where I saw it, but basically it's like, everybody can access the Force, but for some people, it's the door's not all the way open.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
just a matter of how hard some people have natural ability, and like somebody the thing I read today, so it was like Ray's like Ray, her door was just it was just wide open, and that's why she was able to be so good at it so fast and everything is just because that's how it worked for her. Whereas like Sabine,
Right.
her door's only cracked a little tiny bit, and she's really got to work hard to make that work. And I
Right,
find
right,
that
right.
I find that interesting,
Yeah.
and what else did I see? Something about how you thought the Jedi were going out and rounding up these kids to go train at the temple or whatever like that. And but they were saying that it kind of puts in a new light. It's like if these little kids are like accessing the Force willy nilly left and right, like that's dangerous. So of course they're going to want to take
Right,
them and
right,
help
right,
them.
right, right.
Where it's not like they're kidnapping them. They're no, oh here the parents are saying take them, train, teach them,
Yeah,
train them.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's an interesting way to look at it. And I think yeah, like you said, um it's just adding more layers to it. It's and that's what you have to do to keep it interesting and keep it fresh.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I like the show. I think it just suffers from what I think I'm annoyed. I'm starting to get annoyed with all the streaming stuff because I think it suffers from I feel like a lot of these shows are instead of telling the story that they're there to tell,
Right.
they're like, well, we got to tell this story and we got to set this thing up over here, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, so it's almost like I feel like, and we saw that in Mandalorian season
Right.
3, right? Like it's like it wasn't really his his show,
Right.
you
It,
know.
it definitely
They were
became much more
setting
about
up. They spent a lot of that show setting up another show, and it's like, well, that's not why I'm here. I'm not here to watch that. Make this another show. Do something else with this. I'm here to watch a show about the Mandalorian.
right.
This, I think, Ahsoka was better, than season 3 of Mandalorian was, but it's still like doing that. It's still like, well, like the whole thing with Thrawn, like, well, he was sort of a threat in this show, but like the real threat is coming. Like we're going to
Yeah.
see he's really going to be a threat in these other shows. And it's like, well, that's fine. Tell me this story. I don't want to know. Tell me that story later. Tell
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
this story now,
I
and
I
yeah,
did
and I
I
just think I'm
definitely
getting frustrated with all of them, not just Star Wars, like
no, yeah.
Marvel, all of them,
Well, yeah, I feel like Marvel's gotten worse because
Yeah.
like that, especially with their whole phase 4, it's like, oh, everything's connected. Phase 4 was not really connected to anything. You know what I mean? It was
No, it
very,
really wasn't.
and like, I mean, the entire past, 2 years of our podcast, oh, maybe this is it. Maybe this is it. Like,
Right,
no,
right.
no, that's not it. It's not connecting. So I kind of felt that way here too. Cause like with Ahsoka, like, I don't know. I think we're getting a season 2. I think that's the
We
plan.
have to be. I mean,
I,
how do you not get a season 2?
everybody starts they announced that there would be a movie. And so I saw a
Uh,
lot of people saying like, "Oh, it's setting the movie up," and I'm like, I think they're gonna try to get at least another season or 2 out of Ahsoka before they go to the movie, because like there's already season 4 of the Mandalorian, and like I feel like there's gonna, they want to keep it going for a little while longer before they go to the movies, because I think the movie's the end. I think that's sort of like their end game.
right, right, right. Yeah,
So
because they're not just going to like leave them out there and
right,
in limbo, right? Like
yeah,
somebody's going to go and try to find them.
yeah,
Maybe it's not
so,
Ahsoka season 2. Maybe it's Ezra season 1. Who know? Who know? Right?
right,
Like, but
yeah,
somebody's going to go after him.
right. Yeah. I mean, the way things are going, I don't know. Like, I almost sometimes I wish that as much as they're branching out, part of me wishes they could bring everything back together and say, you know what, this is the Star Wars show,
Yeah,
and basically everybody's in it. Like I don't know how
yeah,
that would go over with the fans, but I'm like, it's like You could tell Ahsoka stories. You could tell the stories of the crew from Rebels. You could tell Mandalorian stories. You could tell Boba Fett stories. Bo-Katan. Like it could.
Yeah.
If you structured it right, it could. I mean, it wouldn't be necessarily an anthology series, but maybe you could like weave all their stories together. That's an awful lot of characters to do that with, but it'd be, I don't know, it'd be neat, interesting to try something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, at the very least, that way I've always said they should have done that with Boba Fett instead of spinning him off. They should have just kept him as part.
Oh
of
yeah, the Boba Fett thing was a mistake. That was 100% a mistake.
But that was also, like we said, when that's when Disney was blowing everything out in terms of like, oh, content. So like they're like, oh, and they I think they kind of forced the Boba Fett show onto those guys, as opposed to they could have just done Mandalorian season. That could have been Mandalorian season 3, or so.
Yeah, because I almost feel like it's like when Marvel started this whole thing, with those first Phase 1 movies, I didn't feel like weren't they just hints of things to come?
Yeah, yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like they didn't spend like they'd be like an Easter egg or like or something like that. Like they didn't devote part of the movie to setting something else up, right?
Right. Entire segments of a movie or entire series weren't to set something else up,
Right. And that's I think that's where I start to lose. I'm starting to lose patience with this stuff. Is like I'm really tired of being set up for the next thing. Just tell me the story. Just tell me this story.
Yeah.
And then and then if you want to hint at something else, that's fine. But this is the story. Like I'm here to see a show about Ahsoka. Show me a show about Ahsoka.
Right.
And if you want to hint to something else, that's fine. But I'm really over
right?
all that.
Well, I will say for the finale of this episode, I did like it, but I was disappointed. I felt as if we should have gotten maybe a few more answers, because as it is, it was just sort of like a cliffhanger, but all right, the scene on the screen now, that was a cool cliffhanger. I liked
that.
Yes. I mean, yes, taking out Ray Stevenson's death, that's a cool cliffhanger, because you're like, oh crap, like but all right, they're trapped in the other galaxy, but they didn't seem to really care that they were trapped. And so I was a little concerned about that, and then like Thrawn's back in the regular galaxy now, and he's got the Night Sisters with him, and then he's got whatever their cargo.
What's the cargo?
I think they're coffins. I think they're a bunch of dead Night Sisters that they're gonna bring back to resurrect. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That
makes sense.
That's what I kind of thought that. I wasn't sure. I've seen people online saying that. I don't know what else it could be, because they were definitely like coffin shaped things. Like they are kind of wheeling around, and I think at one point in the show they said something about catacombs or something like that, like get the boxes from the catacombs. And at this last episode they said something like, oh wake. What did they call the Night Sisters? The 3 Night Sisters. Did they have a name for those 3?
I think they did, but I can't remember what it is.
I can't. But I think Thrawn says like wake the Night Sisters, or wake like they were like in their coffins or something. Like they're maybe they're like vampires or something. I don't. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Okay, that makes okay. Because it like it's a little weird that they got the the stormtroopers were undead, and like
I thought that. Yeah, I thought that.
Now were they okay? So this is my question then. So when we first walked in, when we first see Thrawn, and there's all those stormtroopers there, and they're wearing the red tape or whatever.
Right.
Are they all undead?
I think.
Or is it just?
I think they're alive there, and then they get killed, and then the Night Sisters bring them back.
Can bring them back. Okay.
Then they turn them into zombies. I think. Okay. I know a lot of people were because when. Let me think now.
Because I was like, well, wait, are these all guys? Are all these guys undead? And maybe that's just like red duct tape, and it's like
holding them together. Maybe it is. I don't know. I watched a video today And so when the other Inquisitor guy, Marek, is that his name?
Yes.
When he died, all that green energy came out of him. So the video today said, they stated as a fact, I don't know, but they said he was a reanimated Inquisitor. That's what he was.
Yeah. That
I
guy
don't
was
know.
definitely Mephisto. That was
Yeah,
Mephisto.
you're right. That was right. Yeah. But they said though that
Yeah.
he was reanimated. They said when they were killing stormtroopers earlier on, there's no green energy, and then when they got brought back, you saw the green energy, and like their eyes were glowing and stuff like
Okay.
that.
Okay. All right. All right.
That's kind of what my thought process was. But yeah, but I don't know. I mean, aren't the Night Sisters? Yeah,
That's a good theory.
yeah.
The Night Sister theory.
Because I don't know what else would be in the coffins, and I felt like we should have been like, I feel like maybe we should have been told what that was. You know what I mean? Like, unless there was a hint and I missed it, and other people missed it, but like, I feel like there's a couple mysteries, and it's like, well, I understand. Yes, you want to entice us to watch next season. I get it, but like, maybe, maybe could have, like, this, what the Mortis stuff could have been a nice cliffhanger. Whereas I think we would have been, like, what's so important? What are you hauling away?
Well, I and maybe that's part of it because I was figuring initially it was some kind of weapon,
Right.
which, and I guess technically it is, right? But like, that's what I was thinking, and then but I was like, and frankly, I kind of forgot about the coffins.
Yeah.
Like I forgot about the whole thing. And then when I was watching commentary, they're talking about what that was, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about those things.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, right, because that yeah, because another thing they said is why they think they're dead Night Sisters and coffins and all that, because they're going back to Dathomir, which is the Night Sisters' home planet in our galaxy.
Right.
And they think that they're going to use them to repopulate the planet because all the Night Sisters were killed out during the Clone Wars by the Emperor.
Right.
Because like the Emperor and them, they're basically like, the Emperor's like, you stay out of my way, I'll stay out of your way. And they had like an uneasy truce. And then the whole thing with like Darth Maul coming back and Savage Opress, they used their magics on those guys.
Yeah.
And then I think the Emperor caught wind of that. He's like, whoa,
Yeah.
you're in my way now. And then he basically sent, I forget who he sent, but they got wiped out. They killed him.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah. So that makes sense. That's a good.
I mean, the only thing it's like I figure was like a weapon or something, or this is kind of reaching, but like in the original Heir to the Empire book, Thrawn had this salamander creature he wore around his neck. And it was called I think I'm probably gonna butcher the name, but I think it was like a Yalasamari, something like that. And they were just these creatures, but they canceled out the Force.
Oh, okay.
And so it was like sort of a neat way to sort of like Thrawn always remain in control because he wore this thing around his neck, and they would have these things different places to mess with Luke. And so I've early on I'm like, oh, are they like bringing those in? But then I'm like, well, why are they in coffins, and why is it being so secretive, and why doesn't he have one on his neck now when the Jedi show up? So I'm guessing,
right.
So I'm guessing it wasn't that wasn't the wasn't what it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I'm curious. I'm glad that I like the show.
Yeah.
I didn't love the show, but like, they did lay some interesting groundwork. I'm curious to see where they go with it.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's kind of right. I like all the connective tissue. I like some of the groundwork. I like some of the new stuff they're exploring. There's all that stuff. Yeah, it was some of the stuff was a little bumpy. Like some of the character interactions were a little wonky. And like we said earlier, like I don't know why they kept the thing about Ahsoka or about Sabine's secret. I'm not, like I said, I'm not really feeling Sabine for some reason. I don't know if it's the actress. I don't know if it's, I don't know what it is, but
I don't think there's great chemistry. There's not great chemistry between Sabine and Ahsoka. There isn't.
Yeah.
I think it's. I don't know if it's. I don't know. I just think that when the two of them are on screen acting, they're not great together. But I don't feel that way. But like Ahsoka with Hu Yang is okay.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I thought Sabine with Ezra was pretty good. like that is it's more natural, I feel like.
Right.
But like, yeah, there's just something, some kind of it's like I said before, like kind of wooden between those two,
Maybe,
and I don't know if it's intentional.
maybe,
Like,
yeah, maybe it was supposed to be intentional because like they're rebuilding their relationship or
yeah,
whatever. But yeah, instead of coming across that way, it came across as like wooden, you know.
yeah,
That being said, I even felt like Sabine and Ezra, like some of their stuff was a little bit like a little rocky to me too. And
yeah.
and I'm like, is it? I didn't know if it was like, the Ezra guy. He seems to be like
I
very,
like him.
yeah.
I thought he did a pretty good job.
I thought so too. I mean, I mean, I didn't. My only, if I had to critique, would be like I would think he still acts immature, for someone who's been trapped in another galaxy for all this time. But then that
Yeah,
could also explain why he's immature, maybe,
right,
because like
right,
he
right.
definitely was still like, he's like, with that one scene, he's like, don't you want to capture us, or don't you want to, I don't know what he was kind of riffing like Ezra used to do, and um, it just it seemed, yeah, it seemed a little immature, but then I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe that's how it was supposed to be. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of landing on. I'm not sure if I like the Sabine actress, but
yeah,
I don't want to pick on. I don't want to pick on anybody. I don't want to be, certainly don't want to be that way. But I'm just like, I'm hoping to see more from her as, as the next
yeah,
season.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. The other thing I thought was interesting that initially Ezra wouldn't use a weapon
Oh yeah,
initially.
yeah, yeah,
That was interesting because I was like, oh, maybe they're heading down that path that, like, maybe Ezra's gonna be more like we wanted Luke to be, like trying to get a deeper
yes,
understanding of the Force, right? Like I thought that was
yeah.
interesting.
I did too.
Um,
Yeah. So yeah. So based on that, I was a little disappointed when he ended up using I know a lot of people were
yeah,
excited
in
when he
very
put,
short order, he's using a blaster. Yeah,
yeah, well, he would do the blaster, and then he built his own lightsaber,
yeah,
and I know people were excited for that, but I was a little bit more interested in, I don't think I need that. The Force is my ally, and I'm going to force push people, and do all that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I thought that was, again, and like we said too about certain people with the Force have, like Ezra could always talk to animals.
right.
We didn't see any of that this time. I thought for sure the wolves, or I thought something was,
Unless you can kind of like count his,
maybe, yeah, the hermit people,
yeah,
right?
he could talk to them, you
That's
know.
true. So yeah, I guess that would be part of it. But I was thinking like, oh, maybe he'll be more, like Sabine may. I kind of was thinking Sabine could still learn to use the Force, but because May and Mandalorian would be much more blaster based,
Yeah,
and then maybe Ezra would be much more, you know, Force based, or I don't know, like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's almost like the old, like the I made me think of the old games where like one player's a tank, one's a healer, one provides the
Right,
energy,
right, right.
and it's kind of like that's what I was kind of thinking that way. It's like, well, when you have a team of characters, everybody running around with a lightsaber, kind of it could get old,
Yeah, right, right, right.
So I have to see how it ends up working out. I guess just real quickly, the last thing is there's been talk about them getting back to the regular universe by using the world between worlds.
Okay.
And I've seen people say that, and I'm like, oh, on one hand, that could be interesting, but on the flip side, I'm like, I didn't think that was how it was supposed to work. Like, I don't think people like traveled that way, because I went back after our last,
Intentionally.
yeah, I went back, and after our last episode, we couldn't remember what happened to Ahsoka, and at the end of her episode, or at the end of her Rebels episode, she actually goes back to where Ezra rescued her from, just at a little bit later time. So by the time she goes back, Vader's already gone.
Oh, okay, okay,
So
okay.
she doesn't time travel and all that. And then Ezra goes back. Now, see, I don't know where Ezra ended up going back to. So maybe he did. Maybe he ended up going somewhere different, not time
Yeah,
wise, but place wise.
yeah, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll have to
The
see
other,
where.
we
Got.
were talking about the Mortis stuff, and
Oh
I
right.
forgot to mention. Um, did you notice that? I actually saw this later too. I didn't notice it at the time, but at the last scene with Sabine and Ahsoka, she sees like the owl-like
Yeah,
creature,
yeah.
which is also an element of the Mortis trilogy. So
Yes.
that's also, and apparently that owl has shown up a number of times
It has. It
in
was
Clone Wars and
it,
Rebels.
matter of fact, I just saw the clip today. It was in the world between worlds in Rebels. Like Ezra
Okay.
sees it first, and it sits on the doorway where Ahsoka is,
Okay.
like
Okay.
sort of guiding him. I think I could be wrong. I think it may have been in Book of Boba Fett. Oh, no,
Maybe. I don't know.
I think it may have been in the Mandalorian when she was training Grogu for that one episode. I think it may have been there, and
Oh, really?
I'm not sure if it was there or if I'm the toy when they came out with her action figure. I think it's included as part of that, and so maybe I'm mixing that up. Like I don't know if it was actually on the screen, but it came with the toy, so I may be
Okay.
thinking of that. But yeah, they say that is supposed to be like an element of the daughter that's sort of like looking at
Right.
her or something like
Right.
that.
Right. Right. Right.
It has a name, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. But I did see that, right? And then after that thing flies away, then of course the ghost of Anakin shows up at
Yes.
the very end and kind of smiles like he's sort of looking over her, and that kind of brings up other questions too with the whole Mortis stuff, because it's like, oh well, if Anakin's dead and he's in the world between worlds and he can project himself as a Force ghost and all that stuff, it's like, well, what's going on there? Like,
Yeah.
is
And maybe you
he?
better check in on Luke while
Yeah,
you're at
right. Yeah, I know.
it. leave
Right,
Ahsoka be and
right.
go counsel Luke for a while.
Yeah, right. But I mean, like, is he like like is he gonna fulfill the role of the father at some point? Is like, is in the afterlife, if he's gonna, is he,
Right.
if
Right.
they're gonna get really deep with this stuff and really start doing it, it's like, oh, is that something he could possibly be doing? And also, I mean, they made a big deal about this, everybody being in another galaxy, but it seems pretty like like Anakin's Force Ghost can go there, so I guess it's not that far off. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you'd think, I thought being in another galaxy was going to be a much bigger problem. I guess. I mean, yes, they're trapped, but the fact that they're calling it another galaxy, it could have easily been just another planet. But I'm like,
Yeah.
because it was another galaxy, I thought there was going to be a little bit more at stake. I don't know.
Yeah. 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 I agree. I thought that was going to be a bigger deal, but it seems like they're like, oh well, we'll figure it out. We got a ship
Yeah,
and
I know,
we'll go
right?
find a whale and we'll get back.
I
That'll be
mean,
fine.
yeah, it could be as simple as that, right? Although I was, yeah, the whales go there to die, but they sure as heck, as soon as those mines were going off that one episode, they're like, we're out.
Right.
They went somewhere else to die. I don't know where they went.
Yeah. So I don't. Yeah. I mean, it was good. I mean, I liked it. I just. Yeah. I'm starting to get streaming fatigue, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. Well, I'm happy that they're starting, at least a little bit, starting to spread things out. Now, that being said, Loki, the first episode is premiering probably right now.
That's crazy.
You know,
I had no. I mean, I knew it was coming up until you and I talked the other day. You were like, "Yeah, it's
yeah.
coming. It's like Thursday." And I was like, "Oh my god, can they give me 10 minutes?"
I know. I mean, I guess it's good because for a while there, didn't we have like Marvel and Star Wars shows at the same time? And like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm at least there's a little bit of a break, but like, hopefully they'll start spacing them out a little bit more. And like you said, focus more on the show than the overall everything.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
I mean, I do want to see, because Loki was among my favorite things that they did.
Yes. Yeah.
So I do want to watch it, but I'm probably not gonna be able to watch it before this weekend.
Yeah. No, I was that, I same here. I want to watch it, but I'm like I said, a little sad, like just a little soured on Marvel right now, just because I feel like there's been so much, like, there's been like a lot of buildup, and I'm like, all right, you got to give me something.
Yeah, I need something that matters. Like,
Yeah, yeah, I mean, even right, yeah. I don't know. Maybe this will be, again, maybe, but it's like, Kang's supposed to be the big bad, so maybe they're gonna fill in a lot of stuff for him here. I don't know, but again, it's like, is this whole series just a prelude to what's the Kang Dynasty, which is the Avengers movie, like,
right.
and if it is, and it truly is, then that's fine. Or is it going to be another like the season 1 of Loki? As much as I did like it, I really thought that was going to be like the kickstarter for all that stuff, and then it took forever for anything to happen with Kang.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So we'll have to see what happens with it. Hopefully,
yeah.
like I said, I feel like they're starting to try to tighten things up a little bit. So hopefully it'll get better.
I hope so. I really hope Loki's good.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I really enjoyed the first season of that.
yeah, yeah.
Any last thoughts on Ahsoka before? I mean, we only have one other thing I want to talk about.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I just no. That's it for Ahsoka. I guess the next Star Wars is Skeleton Crew, but we don't know when that's coming out yet at all.
Okay.
Maybe it's next year. I can't remember. I don't think there's not a firm date as far as I remember, but I believe that's next for Star Wars. So
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Unless we're getting visions. Unless we're getting visions sometime soon, but I don't.
No, that came and went. Remember that came out.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it yet. Yeah, the only other thing I wanted to talk about was this Doctor Who trailer, which dropped like last week. I'm gonna say.
I think that's about right.
And this is kind of I just I'm a Doctor Who nerd, so I think this is kind of cool. But like it's going to be Doctor Who's 60th anniversary coming up in November, and for the 60th, the last Doctor regenerated. When she regenerated into David Tennant. So there are going to be 3 episodes, we think, with David Tennant, and then he's going to regenerate into Cutie Gatwa, who's the new Doctor.
Okay.
So I watched this trailer. This trailer looks really good. I wasn't like at first I was like, they're bringing back Donna Noble and David Tennant. I was like, that's kind of weird. But watching the trailer, I'm like, man, this thing looks really good. I don't know, that little creature right there. That's from the comics.
I heard that. Yes.
Yeah, Meep. Yeah, that was in the.
It was so what a little bit of a tangent. What comics series?
The Marvel comics.
So the ones
the Marvel, the ones I used to collect.
Okay, okay. I read somewhere that it was from the comics, but I'm like, now it's been how many years? I'm like, well, what comics? So that's cool.
Yeah,
all right, that's cool.
That's
really good. Yeah,
yeah.
Really cool.
I was like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's Meep. Anyway, and I think I think Meep is like he continued to be a character in the comics, because the Doctor Who I collected didn't last very long, but he continued to be a character in the comics, and I think he's even a character in some of those audio dramas.
Oh, how funny!
Yeah, I think he's even in there. So anyway, so he's like a thing now.
Yeah, right. It's cool. Well, it's cool to see them be able to bring him to the screen. Then that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. But like I think this show looks really good. I mean, I'm excited about it. The anniversary shows. They've really been, they've really been knocking it out of the park. I mean, the last one was what was it? The Day of the Doctor.
Was that the 50th, or was that?
That was the 50th. It was 10 years ago.
Jeez,
that's crazy to think.
Yeah.
And man, that show was awesome. They just killed. They knocked that show out of the park. It was great.
Was that the one with the War Doctor?
Yeah.
Yes, that was okay. I couldn't remember. Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, so they absolutely knocked that out of the park. So I'm hopeful that they will do the same. And really it was the same. I think it's the same director. Because
you're probably right.
This guy came back. So that's really good. And then I don't like. I'll just rewind it here a little bit. But the new Doctor is the Cutie Gatwa. I think that's how you pronounce his name. That's him right there. Right. He's actually interesting. I went to Europe. We went to London and Scotland this year.
Right.
We flew on British Air, and British Air, and how they do the little spiel at the beginning of the about where your life raft is and put the mask on and stuff like that. Well, British Air does it with a bunch of celebrities. Oh. And the Cutie Gatwa was one of the celebrities who was in the video. Okay. And I was like, and we're sitting there watching it, and I'm sitting next to my son, and I was like, that's the new Doctor. That's the new Doctor. And he's like, that's great, Dad.
Right,
yeah. So anyway, I just thought that was funny. But I'm excited about it. I really am. And I think I think I read this week that in the lead up to it, because Donna Noble, the woman who I can't remember the actress's name, but she was one of the Doctor's companions, obviously.
Right.
and when she leaves the doctor, he has to like wipe her wipe her memory of all her adventures with him, because somehow to save her life. I forget exactly what the circumstances were, but like it sounds like he's coming back because something is happening to put her life in danger, and he's coming back to fix it. So that's what it sounds like. So it's in the lead up to these shows coming out. BBC is apparently going to rerun all of the David Tennant, Catherine Tate episodes, so that you can kind of get up to speed before you see it. So
yeah, no, that's
I think
cool,
that's
then.
it. Yeah, so I'm excited about that, because
Yeah,
I
that'll be
truly
cool.
I remember I liked her um as his partner, because or his companion, because I hate the one, like we've talked about that before, like the ones where there's like a there's like a relationship, or
Yeah,
I don't like that. I
right,
think the doctor should not the doctor should not be like in
right.
love with his companions. It just
It was
seems wrong.
I remember it being interesting with Rose the first time they did it. I
Yeah,
remember it was different, and I'm like, well, okay, that's fine. But then then they felt like they kept trying. I don't know. It just felt like there was always that like tension they tried to do all the time, and it's like you said, it's like he's the doctor, he should be like the professor, like
right.
he should be
It
above
seems
that.
a little weird.
Well,
It seems
yeah,
a little
yeah.
weird. And I don't even mind if the companion sort of has a crush on him
Which, yeah,
or her, I guess in this case,
yeah,
in
yeah,
this, in the case of the Last Doctor. But like, I don't even mind if that's a thing, but it shouldn't be reciprocated,
yeah. Right, right,
right? Like, I have a problem with that. But at any rate, uh, Donna Noble and the Doctor, there was never that, right? Like, there was never
right.
that. Like, they were just really good friends, and they never. She didn't have feelings for him. He didn't have feelings for her. And I just think that they were a good pairing, you know.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see them back together again.
Yeah, that'll be fun to do. Um, I'm curious to see how you can say his name. I'm curious to see how the new doctor's going to be. I'm excited to see him. I only know him from a show. There's a show on Netflix called Sex Education, and he's in that. And in that, he's a very, very flamboyant, gay
Yeah,
teenager, and that's all fine. There's no problems with that. But I mean, I don't know how much he's acting in that, because he's very flamboyant, and
right. Like, I've seen some of his outfits and stuff like
yes,
that.
and
Yeah, yeah,
he's a trip in the show, and I mean, so I'm like, I'm just curious. I'm curious to see him as a doctor. I'm curious to see
yeah,
what we're gonna get in terms of how much of that show was acting, how much of his doctor will be acting, and how much of it is him. And I've really, honestly,
yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen him outside of the show. I don't think I've seen many interviews. Maybe the occasional interview, but nothing. Nothing in depth. So I'm just curious to see how he's going to be, and I like him, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm just interested to see what we get.
Yeah, I don't like, I haven't seen it. All I've seen so far are like shots of him in different, like it doesn't. How the Doctor always sort of has like a standard outfit.
Right,
You know,
right.
I mean, it may change colors, or they change subtle little things, but for the most part, there's like a standard outfit, right?
Okay.
And I haven't seen what I believe is his like standard outfit yet. Like,
Oh, I see.
I've seen him in a lot of different things, so
Okay.
maybe he's not going to have a standard outfit.
Interesting.
Um,
Right.
but he's, like, I've seen, um, it's a lot of like pictures of them filming, right? So you see him in different, how there's always like a period, like
Right.
they go back to old England, and they're all in period costumes and stuff like that. I've seen him in that.
Okay.
Just today, they're in Cardiff right now, and they're filming. They're apparently filming the Christmas episode,
Oh, okay.
and he's wearing a kilt in that in the shot that he's
Yeah,
standing
yeah.
in the street and he's wearing a kilt.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't know. Like we'll find out. But it's it's always exciting to get a new Doctor.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
always
yeah.
see what they do with it and how they change it up a little bit. That's part of what makes a show so interesting.
Right. That's part of the charm, just right.
Right.
So
What they do to the inside of the TARDIS and all that kind of
yeah,
stuff. So
right, right.
it'll be cool.
Yeah, I think so. I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun to watch.
Yeah. So that's November. It sounds like it'll probably be. It's usually like the anniversary is late. I think it's like right at the end of November. It's usually like right around Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay.
That's when the anniversary is. So I don't know if this is going to start before that
Yeah,
or if it'll start
right.
on the anniversary or. But it's supposed to be, from what I understand, it's going to be 3 episodes with Tennant,
Okay.
and then we'll see. Maybe the Christmas episode is the first with Nikita Gatwa. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, it depends on how they right. And these will all be on Disney Plus now, right?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where. Like they made that announcement
and
that it was going to be on Disney Play, and I haven't seen anything since. So I don't know.
Yeah, I hope. I mean, I just on our screen here it says BBC above Doctor Who, but I hope if it airs there that Disney gets it. If it's, I hope Disney Plus gets it in real time.
Yeah.
And it's it's not going to be on like BBC America or some other service that, and then like it'll get dumped over there later or something like that.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. Like I really don't know. I mean, it's very frustrating because they made that big announcement and they put a thing out and they were like make a big deal about it. So it's going to be on Disney Plus, and I haven't heard a thing about it since. I haven't seen an advertisement for it.
No, right.
And I was like, is it happening? Like, did it fall through? Like, what happened?
I mean, if it had fallen through, I would assume you would have heard about that, because that would be big news if that, if it fell apart, the deal.
Yeah. But I like this trailer as far like, I mean, we watched Disney Plus. Are you still there?
Yeah. I should look. I mean, you think the trailer.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You froze up there for a second.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
it hiccuped for a minute.
It's saying my internet connection is unstable.
Oh.
Okay. But or just we'll cut that part out. But yeah. So like, I mean, we watch Disney Plus fairly frequently. This trailer has never been on Disney Plus.
Yeah. And they
I don't know.
Yeah, they love to do that. I mean, they did it with any trailer they did, like Indiana Jones, they put up on there before the movie came out. They do all that stuff. So yeah, I don't know what the plan is. I don't. Yeah, but you think it's like like you said, it's a month out. I mean, November they should be doing something.
Right. I mean, this is like a big deal. So I would think that if it was going to be there, we'd have heard about it. But I don't know. I really don't know. It's very frustrating.
Something tells me that it's not going to be a day and date. Something tells me it's going to be like some dumb, like kind of like HBO Max was like, oh, we have all the Doctor Who's. No, you don't. It's like
we'll get it like 6 months from now, right?
Yeah, but by the time I've already forgotten about it, you'll get it.
Right.
Yeah. So well, we'll have to see. Hopefully, I mean,
it's just why people pirate.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, although I do remember when they said the story that Disney was giving them like dumping money into the show. So maybe it will be. I mean, maybe we'll get lucky and it will be day and date.
I don't know. I mean, it just surprised me. Like I said, it could be. I could be completely blown in proportion. It just seems strange to me because I follow all the. I follow this Disney stuff. I follow, on social media and stuff like that. Yeah. They made that one announcement, and I have never seen anything about it since.
Right. If anybody's going to catch it, it's going to, they should be serving that up to you. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Yeah.
I follow Doctor Who. I follow Disney. I follow all that stuff, and I haven't seen anything about it. So
yeah, that's interesting. Well, we'll have to see. Yeah, exactly.
I'll be using those. What are they?
I don't know.
Mask your IP address.
Oh, the VPN.
The VPN.
Yeah.
Try to get this show.
Right. They would be. Yeah. They in this day and age, they would be foolish not to have a day and date in America. It's what I mean. Like somewhere at least.
Right.
On some service. I mean, nobody wants to pay for something extra for one show, but it's like they'd be dumb not to. Just Because if not, that's what everybody's going to do. You VPN
Right.
it, and then what's it, the BBC player? Isn't that what their
Right.
app is
Yeah.
called?
I'm going to see this one way or the other.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Like I will gladly pay for it.
Right.
But if you make it, if that option is not available, then I'll figure out a way to see it.
and then right. Well, it's like the old that then it becomes a challenge. You're like, well,
Right.
I'm going to see this now. You
Right.
know, I would happily pay for it, but now I'm going to see it anyway.
Now you've made me angry, and now I'm going to watch it for free. So anyway,
right. All right.
But yeah, that's all I've got. I just
Yeah.
just the Doctor Who stuff.
Yeah, that's it from on my end too. So that's about it this week, I guess.
All right, so we will wrap up the show. Thanks for listening. You can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, whatever Twitter is now,
Right.
Threads, Instagram, the whole 9 yards. Also,
Right.
we're going to be posting the show on YouTube,
Right. Yeah.
so you can watch us there. So with that, we will wrap up the show, and we will talk to you next time, probably about Loki.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Whenever we do that.
Yep. That
All
sounds good.
All right. So good night, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thanks. Bye.